people and go ahead.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, I'm Gianna. I know that customer marketing, advocacy, and community propel businesses to achieve both ARR and NRR, balanced, healthy growth through the strategic pillars the C-suite sets by fueling the go-to-market engine, assisting each team focused across the customer journey to reach their goals and influence product development, but only when it's understood, only when it's strategic, and only when it's invested in. And I know this because of my 12 years leading RevOps and go-to-market strategy for a tech services firm going from 5 million to 100 million, where our business strategy was focused on customer engagement and influence to drive compounding growth by aligning the go-to-market teams around this strategy. All in. I remember when I moved from tech services to a software company as a GM, and it was clear that marketing invested in field and demand gen with clear revenue lineage. And what I realized is that what we struggled with was supporting customer growth and engagement, truly knowing the human instead of the logo. We fell into that trap that most SaaS companies do during hyper growth and scale stages. Heavy investment in pre-sale to drive new ARR and a desire to focus on customers, but we had an isolated customer marketer of one who was underinvested in, even though we knew that without best-in-class NRR, our growth was exponentially harder and held us back, and our business lacked the right attention to what matters most, the customer. What we wanted was customer value to drive new customer traffic and wins. Theoretically, we understood it, but we were at our infancy in practice. And it was when we began to fold customer marketing into strategy and alignment that we saw our NRR climb by 20% and our growth rate soar, even when the market post-COVID started to plummet. Today, I'm focused on helping CROs understand that the missing revenue to their targets can be achieved with a strong and invested customer marketing program, and helping customer marketers drive strategic vision, execution, and how to tell their narrative to avoid being seen as a tactical task taker. This is why we're here today to talk about strategic programs, how to start them, how to scale them, and where they land such a punch to the business that they can't be ignored by the CEO or the CFO's wallet. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to Heather Foeh. There's no better person in my mind to tackle this topic. Heather produced a series of playbooks that was the impetus for this call, producing them with Champion alongside myself and really Emily Sid. We'll share a QR code at the end of this webinar, and we'll share them via email if you haven't seen them already. And even if you're not a Champion customer, they are all of the guidance to build and scale without needing a platform, and what you could do with one as well. So completely relevant for everyone on this call. And with that, I'd love to pass it over to you, Heather. Before we jump in, can you take the stage in sharing your experience that brought you here today?
I would be happy to. Thank you.
Like, just
Um,
be fucking normal.
so I am thrilled to join today, and always could chat with G for hours about all topics, but especially customer marketing. And I started my career in regular marketing before I came and saw the light for customer marketing. So I was a demand gen marketer back in the day, and was using Eloqua back in its infancy. And I got the opportunity to join Eloqua as a customer success manager. And so that helped me learn a wide variety of things that what all the customers were going through. But the biggest thing I saw at the time, this was around 2010, that every CSM, there was about 16 or 18 of us, was doing kind of their own customer marketing, basically. They were trying to get their customers engaged, getting to use the product, trying to help them renew, all the things that customer marketers do, but each one were doing it individually. And so I raised my hand and was like, I think we can take the best of what everyone's doing, put this into a role, and like, let's try it. And so quickly on the heels of that, I also got tapped to lead customer advocacy, which was sort of a phrase that no one really thought of. but it generated because our friends at Marketo were coming on strong using customer advocacy to try to win over our customers. And so we worked hard to figure that out. The good folks at Influitive were super helpful, and Julie Prasovsky in particular, she was great at talking about what other people were doing and helping me understand what my options were. So I give her a ton of credit for my customer advocacy knowledge to this day. And then from there, I've been at 5 other companies and have built customer marketing or customer advocacy programs, some customer success still to this day, which has served me well to this day. Sorry, because I it helps me build that trust and rapport, which is so important in customer marketing. Customer success really need to be joined at the hip, and so having that in my past has really been super helpful. So here we are today.
Here we are today. Heather, thanks for that introduction to your past. And I've seen Heather in motion. She's worked with a handful of our clients, assisting them in tackling specific challenges within their advocacy programs. And I was really blown away by her ability, just as she mentioned, to really think about the overall impact to the business rather than tactical items that you could easily get sidetracked or get tunnel vision in more of the production instead of the vision. So, quickly before jumping in, and I have a first question that's really around that topic, just to share with everyone. This is going to be fireside chat style. I'm going to ask some questions, but please infuse questions in the chat, just like Mary suggested as well. We'd love to have your questions influence the discussion as well. And again, I just want to say a big thank you to all of the familiar and friendly faces that we see on the
Mhm.
call today. I feel super at home right now, which is really weird, but really awesome. So thank you. Awesome. Heather, so we talked about aligning to overall strategic vision, right? Those strategic pillars. But often advocacy can get reduced to reactive moments, those last minute reference requests, scrambling for speakers, or even initiatives that might take a quarter long, where it's that laser focus into, I need to do this for the next quarter. And we see this all the time. I'm in actually some active sales cycles and discussions around how you balance building an advocacy program for strategy while still needing to focus on some of those, acute asks. Why do you think
Sure.
this pattern happens? And how can someone balance those fire drills with building something more strategic?
I mean, it happens because we all have to do the thing that's right in front of us, and we all need to, fulfill those reference requests or get a speaker for the webinar in 2 weeks or whatever. Those things are time sensitive, so they have to be done in a timely manner. But I think it's easy to think I don't have time to build the ongoing strategic program because I'm busy doing this stuff. And in reality, I actually think it's not that time consuming to get a program off the ground if you do it with the mindset of learn, test, iterate, and start small. It doesn't have to be perfection. It doesn't have to be the most grandiose thing. You don't have to have given presentations to all 25 departments in your company before you start, right? I mean, those are all good things, and we want to get buy-in. But if it's as simple as like, I need to spin up a form and get some information from people so I can at least get some data in so I have a bigger pool of people to select from, that's the beginning of a program and getting started. And so I think iterating and starting small and not being perfect from day one is such an important message, and it's hard for us because we want to like have it be beautiful and shiny. We're marketers, we like to do that stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
I appreciate that answer so much for a couple of reasons. One is the idea of being agile. I had
Mm-hmm.
learned this terminology when I was in tech services, as I mentioned, when I was introducing myself. There was the whole like developers had the waterfall methodology, which was like understand the full scope of a project that needs to get done, build out the whole roadmap to getting there, define every stage, every step, every milestone, and then you start building. And this is like, a year-long project. And by the time you start building, that strategy is no longer relevant to the
Yeah.
business. And so instead, developers really created the agile methodology, which is sprints, right? Understanding like
Mm-hmm.
what is the first or the next couple things that I need to do in order to get this
Totally.
off the ground, and then start to identify every step from there. I love that thinking, and I've seen it in action for developers and go-to-market folk to
Yeah.
really like propel that business forward. The second thing that you mentioned that I really want to highlight for everyone here, because I know I fall into this trap and I see, well, a lot of women on this call, and I think by nature we fall into this trap, which is um, we overestimate what actually needs to get done to
Yeah.
say that we're doing something, right? So you just suggested like even, opting in or having more folks in your advocacy program is a start. And I think we
Yep.
overthink how much actually needs to happen in order for us to say, hey, I've started this thing.
Yep. Totally. 100%. Yeah. We all do it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don't we ever? I know. I know. We gotta take a page out of the men's book.
Yeah.
Anyway, so question two. How do you define what a successful advocacy program looks like? And what does that and how does that change as the program matures? So we talked about like starting it, don't overbake it, but how do you identify what a successful program looks like?
Yeah. You know, there's definitely some key like KPI type of things, which I think that's redundant because K is key. But anyway, ATM machine. But I think I don't know that there is an actual universal definition for this is a successful customer marketing or advocacy program because every company is at a different stage and needs different things. And so even at your own company, what might be perfect right now in 2 years is not going to be enough, and you're going to have different milestones, right? So stage of the business, growth versus not growth versus expansion to a new geo. You just have different things. Overall, of course, you've got to tie yourself to revenue in some way. Some way.
Yeah.
It can be a small thing, but if you can speak the revenue language and feel confident about that, that's a whole that's just a step up for your career, but also a step up for your program. So I think those are super important. And tying all that into your to business outcomes. So I think we have a question about that, so I don't want to give too much away about business outcomes. but
Well, let's
but
let's go
yeah,
there for a moment.
yeah,
Like, how does one not like stay close to what the business cares about, but how do they identify like what those revenue targets are or what some of those like pillars are?
yeah. I think it's a lot about listening with a different ear in your company meetings, in your like big town halls, in your marketing team meeting, and it's it's like what's the language that people are talking about? If they're all talking about churn, you need to start thinking about the word churn and how can you affect that? Do you have some customers that are super successful who've been with you for several years? Can you do a workshop with them about what's made them successful and hear it in their own ears? And that's you're targeted that at people that are close to churning, right? So you have to like make connect those dots. If people are talking about going into a new geo, then that's where you're like, okay, I've got to go find. We're expanding into the UK. Crap, I don't have a single advocate in the UK. I'll never be able to get a speaker there. What can I do? And so you're listening with a little bit of a different ear of how you can be proactive. So it's easy as to be an order taker in customer marketing. I need a speaker. I need this. I need that. And we have to do those things, but you got to carve out a little bit of brain space to be proactive too. That's going to make your career grow. That's going to tie your program to real world results that matter to your company.
Thanks, Heather. You mentioned something about attaching to something like the strategic mission of, growing in the UK.
Mhm.
One of my favorite pieces of advice to give is just around storytelling. You may not be able to exactly tie, like, here's the revenue I specifically influence, but what you can do is say, hey, understanding that it was a strategic mission for the organization to grow our UK market by 10%, we did. And let me share how I helped. And then you could list the
Okay.
tactical items, but you've at least associated it
Started.
with
Yep.
a revenue target. So now you are metric driven and speaking the same language of the CEO, CFO, and the business leaders as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a totally different to go to the CSMs and say, as we talked about in the company meeting 2 weeks ago, we're starting this new initiative. We want to do this new thing. Here's how we're going to support it from our side on marketing. Can I partner with you to do the thing and find
Mhm.
these people and find as opposed to like, hi, do you have any customers in the UK who I could talk to and speak it? It's just like a
Yeah.
different starting point, Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. So a lot of leaders see advocacy as a nice to have. How do you connect it to the metrics they already cared about? We talked a little bit about this, but anything more specific there?
I mean, always a thing that I feel like you can tie yourself to is influencing revenue. You can't take credit for the whole thing, but I think if you're doing any kind of reference fulfillment, you've got to keep some good notes on that. If you're not tracking that in a system or tracking it in Salesforce, at least give yourself a great spreadsheet where you can be like, I surfaced this many references that helped close this many deals, and that was this much ARR. Even if that's a thin, a little bit vague
Yeah.
line sometimes, that alone, I think, is a shows you're thinking about the right thing, but also gives you that, angle. But I think also help working to design programs that fill gaps that you guys have as a company, right? So again, going back to the churn thing, if our gap is like people who have this certain product keep churning at a higher rate, I actually have three advocates who are great with that product. What can I proactively do for the other people who you have that product to help them get up and running? So you kind of have to think one step ahead, which is hard. We just talked about you're very reactive a lot of time, but carving out a little bit of that brain space, I think
I love
it's
that.
also good for your soul to be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. And feeling like you are driving
Yeah,
that impact, right, in
yeah.
solving someone's problem. I think so many of us are problem solvers and caretakers on this call. I'll draw back to something that you said earlier, around that same notion of like paying attention, right, on the all hands call, right? Join other team meetings and hear what they're
Yep.
struggling with, or have meetings with other go-to-market leaders and ask them specifically, like, what are you struggling with? And think to yourself, what do I do that will help them? And then draw them into that strategy. And that's really where you get that buy-in as well. Now, I'm
Yep.
going to move on over to the meeting room questions. Renee has a question, and I'm going to add to it a little bit. Her question is, how do you define what an advocacy program is not? And then I'd love for you to then launch into, when someone is launching one from scratch, what's the biggest mistake that you see?
Hmm. Ooh, it's a good question. What is an advocacy program is not. So what is an advocacy program, I guess, is the maybe the also the other side of it. I mean, I'll tell you what an advocacy program is not. It is not a thing to save an at-risk client. A single at-risk client, like let's drop them, let's invite them to our cab, let's do this. Those things are, it's probably too late in the game, in my opinion. They need to see business value. You having some warm fuzzy love over here from a customer marketing standpoint is not going to solve their business problem necessarily. That's a bigger thing, and there are people in your company who should be doing that, so you should let them do their job too. But I think I don't use this example as much anymore because I don't love Evernote as much as I used to, but I used to be an advocate for Evernote, and Evernote had no idea. I probably over the years got 20 people to sign up for Evernote because I loved it. They made this big drastic change many years ago that I can't use it at all. But for years I was like shouting them from the rooftops, and they didn't know. I was an advocate. They could have tapped into that and given me more things to do, or found out that I was doing that and rewarded me for something. Man, that would have been an amazing win-win. I would have loved that. So, but I think that advocacy program then is you're finding your customers who want to do good things, who are already having results, positive business results with you, and giving them a platform to share those things. So you're expanding on their career. They're getting the opportunity to look good, look like a thought leader, grow in their career, say good things, be on a video on your website, all those things that help people. You're also helping all the rest of your customers hear from them. So I think it's to me, an advocacy program is like, how can you amplify the people who are already doing some amazing stuff? The chat is blowing up, and I like
It
can't look
sure
at it or I
is. It
can't
sure
talk at the
is.
same
I
time.
know.
I
I
can't do
know.
it, but so I
We've
hope
we've got
so
lots of
keep me track
questions
of it for
here.
me. I
So
just
thank you for answering that. I part of the question that I had asked, and I'm actually going to draw from Sandra's question as well here. I'd love to ask, like, when someone is launching from scratch, what's the biggest mistake you see?
mm,
But within that, Sandra has shared that she's having trouble figuring out how to get an advocacy program started. So I think perhaps giving some tips that you had shared in, the playbook would be helpful. And
yeah,
specifically, how do we find ways to keep them contributing over time? So it's not just a heck yes, I'll, do stuff and
yeah,
I'm a hand raiser. and then nothing happens.
Yeah, yeah. I'm I'm just a huge proponent of having some kind of form where people are signing up to be an advocate for so many reasons. But it's you're going to ask in this form the things that you need to know in order to fulfill the request that you're getting. Right? If you always need to know where people are located, but that information's crap in your CRM, spoiler alert, it almost always is, then you
Yeah,
you
you're
should
not
put that on
unique
your
in that.
form.
You're not unique in
Yeah,
that.
right. Yeah. But then that needs to be on your form, right? So think about it's not the world's longest form. You got to think, I have that's all in the playbook is like how you do those trade-offs. But what are the things that you need to know to do your job better and that can help you match the right opportunities to the right people? That is your starting point. The reason I love the form is twofold. It's it's sort of a handshake. The people are agreeing, yes, I'm here, I'm raising my hand, I want to help. So then
Yeah,
when you
you
do
called
ask
it a
them,
virtual handshake in the
yeah,
playbook. I love
yeah,
this.
because it is. It's like, hi, I'm Heather. You want to help me? Yeah, I do. Right. And so then when I reach out in the future, it's not a surprise. It's not like no one knew about this before. Right. So
Hmm.
for them, I just feel like there's that good buy-in. I also think it's for like the CS team as well. Right. So, and the, I felt this at Sixth Sense very much. Once we launched this project at Sixth Sense, with the form and the buy-in, the CSMs are like, yeah, you can definitely go to them directly when you have a need. You don't need to come to us anymore. They've said yes. Like, don't let us be a gatekeeper. And it built that trust immediately that that was okay. So I think there's like that internal, external good reasons for that. And that's an easy thing to do, really. In a wonderful world, it feeds straight into your CRM and all that. But honestly, if you just can like spin up a survey monkey form and get some of the basics out, that is a quick win that can help you get going on that. I totally forgot the second part of the question.
No, that's okay. But well, I'm actually going to jump because now I actually think this is what I'm curious is I know that there are a lot of like multi-tier programs, right? You've got your advocacy at mass and then you've got your executive programs. How
Yeah.
does this differ, this virtual handshake differ while working with executives who may not want to fill out a form?
Yeah. There was a question today on the, or yesterday in the CMA chat about this. Someone was like being asked to start a reference program with execs,
Yeah.
advocacy program with execs. I do not think execs are going to fill out your form in general. I really don't. They're execs, they're busy, they have stuff going on. So you need a different way to intake their information, perhaps getting as much as you can from the CS team and as a starting point, and then just filling in gaps via a quick phone call. Hey,
Mm.
can I have 15 minutes of your time? We'd love to do this. Even better, if you can get your execs to connect with their execs, right? They will have a much better conversation if you get your head of demand gen to talk to their head of demand gen, or your head of finance to talk to their head of finance, or at least someone in a similar level, that is a game changer because they will listen. They can talk the same language. There's a little something in it for them. They've made a new connection into your company that matters for them too. So I think as much as you can do that, super hard. I know you've got to get people on your side to buy in, but I think you can win that battle. And also start small. Like you're never going to get 25
Yeah.
execs to sign up this quarter. Just be like, I'm going to get three, and this is how we're going to do it.
So tangent like I'm reading the chats here. I'm trying. There are so many great questions. So y'all, thank you so much for engaging. I'm so on that note of executive, right? Often we see executive to executive programs really small. Small, really smart, not small, you guys, but start small as Heather suggested as well.
Small.
Um, so Jen Kelly has a question that got upvoted 3 times. So here's a
Okay.
hard-hitting, pressing question here. What are some tips for educating execs and evangelizing internally for the process, infrastructure, customer prerequisites needed to build advocates? So we often see agreement execs want the outputs of advocacy, but not the coordinated and sustained efforts to build those relationships. So how do we get
Mm,
executives involved? Just what we're talking about.
yeah. I One opening question to your internal execs is even better if you can find something that they're using, a software that they're using. So say it's your CFO and you know that they're using I can't think of it. NetSuite. I think it's whatever. I'm just trying to make something up. say, they use NetSuite. If you could say to the CFO, look, if NetSuite came to you and it was a person with this title asking you to do something, what would you do versus if it was this person coming at you, the other head, the CFO at NetSuite? Like even just getting them to think about the other person's point of view, I think is what you're trying
Mm,
to do is like, what would resonate with you? That's what I'm asking you to do for them. So starting point. And I think you also need to make it really easy for the execs. You need to give them some talking points. Here's the three things. Here's the two things. Here's what they're doing really well. And we want to ask them to talk about it at this thing. Can you do this specific ask? Very quick and dirty bullets, not a lot of text. Give it to your execs to make it really easy for them to absorb and to share and make them feel confident going into those calls. That's a huge win. If they have to think about it or go ask the CSM themselves, or there's any kind of friction, they're not going to maintain and keep doing it.
mhm. What I appreciate about your answer is that it really explains how to transform from someone who is setting something up like an administrator versus
Yes.
really creating strategy at a finite level of something. We've got this one initiative, but I'm going to
Mm.
own the entirety of it, of understanding who, what
Yeah.
they care about, and really influencing the executives so that they can see this.
Mm.
This ties into Amy's question, which is how to come into an organization that without a program and determine what specifically influences the B2B buyers, the reviews, customer evidence, et cetera. So, you mentioned in that example of really understanding the nuances between what one customer versus another customer wants. Amy really would like to know, how do you start to identify that from your kind of ICP as a whole when you come to a new program?
Yeah. If you have someone who's doing win-loss reports, go become their friend and get them because they're already doing interviews and they can give you some really good, like spend even 30 minutes with that person.
And that's
That will
usually
get
like
you
a
really.
PMM that is running those.
It is, or sometimes like a competitive intelligence person.
Okay.
That might be
Depending on
their
how
title.
large the
Yeah.
organization
Yep.
is. Yeah.
So someone's probably already out there looking at some of this stuff. So anything you can start there is a win. Um, and I think it's a really good one. Like, can you, well, in my own consulting now, the very first thing I always ask to do when I start with someone is, can I go interview 5 to 10 of your customers? So you should also be having some conversations with customers. Did someone recently come on board, say, hey, you know what? We're spinning up some initiatives. Can I spend 20 minutes? I have 5 questions for you, no prep, and find out, did they hear about you? Did they look at reviews? That is very anecdotal information. Okay. It's not big data dumps, but it points you in the right direction. Because if you talk to 5 of them and not a single one said G2 reviews, maybe that's, directionally accurate. But if 3 of them said it, then that's also directionally accurate.
Hmm.
So I do think that don't be afraid to actually just have some conversations with people. This is for spinning up your program from ground one. This is from engaging people, what resonates with them. This is all those things. You don't have to go it alone with just the data. The data is amazing, but you do like just have some conversations. And I think some of us, we sometimes forget that.
Yeah, agreed. I'm like trying to run through all of these amazing
Yeah.
questions. Hopefully we can get through most of them. Heather, we've got Jason. And Jason, I do want to preface this with actually Emily has been working on a whole best practice documentation on this from our Learn. So definitely tap Emily on this one. But what type of indicators and data do you think a program should use to track customer health over time to ensure we engage, or mostly only healthy and good standing customers?
Mm. Ooh, that's definitely going to vary by customer for sure. But I think some biggies are if you have a tool that's doing recordings, there's often sentiment gauge within those, like in Gong or something. So you can pull in some sentiment stuff usually. Any kind of engagement data. So product usage data is good. It's not necessarily always engagement data. Someone spending a long time in your product could be because they're super frustrated and they can't make it work. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's always engage good, positive from a product
Hmm.
perspective. But I think um, are they regularly attending calls with their CSM? That should be tracked in some kind of thing like Gainsight. Are they, I don't know, can you look at people who have, made comments on your company's LinkedIn? These are kind of a little bit disparate. I'm not giving you, Jason, some of the best, like, go grab these five things, but um, I also think if you do any kind of thing like user groups or customer webinars or those things, who are those people that are attending those on a regular basis? Like, look at your last five. Do any of the names kind of stand out that people have attended all five of them? Start with those people, get them to speak on the next one and get them. That's like a good thing. So
Yeah,
no, no.
absolutely. So a lot of engagement, right? We're looking at engagement indicators, as you mentioned, how are they engaging with their CSMs, how they're
Mhm.
engaging with marketing materials, overall product usage potentially, and sometimes that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
I remember like at
yeah,
Air Call, we were a phone system, so looking at someone's usage of a phone, like
yeah,
didn't really tell us anything because that's their job. Didn't
yeah.
really mean that they were actually happy, right, and an
Right.
advocate. So
Totally.
you definitely
Yep.
agree with you on the situational factor of it. So I'd love to ask you some more of the fun stuff in more of the programming, more of the holistic build. What's something you've seen another team, or a program do that you were really like, wow, that's really good?
I would say this is overkill, but good directionally. How about that?
Okay.
So, and it goes back way back in the day of Julie Prasovsky telling me this, but Salesforce at the time when they had kicked off their MVP program, you had to do a certain number of things each year to maintain your status as an MVP. It was it was a lot of shit, let me just tell you. Like, I mean, I don't, these people, like, it was their second job to be an
Yeah.
MVP. So I'm not saying that was too far. But
Yeah.
what I took away from that is it's okay to refresh your advocate group each year. Like, say, hey, it's January, it's a new year. Maybe you have two different paths of messaging, one for the people who've done stuff and one for people who haven't done anything at all. And be like, hey, new year, new changes. Maybe people's jobs have changed and they don't have the time to advocate for you, or they're not using your product as much as they used to when they signed up. So there's very real reasons they haven't done it. But I'm a big fan of that annual refresh. It's kind of like, I'm just a big fan of quality over quantity. I would rather
Mm,
have 100 or 50 engaged people I knew a lot about who were willing to do stuff than say, oh, my advocacy program has 1,000 members, but 800 of them have never done anything. Like, that's not who. So I'm a big fan of that. And that was a good takeaway that I got from that. Again, it was very overkill. Like, you got kicked out. It was aggressive. I'm not a proponent of that, but give people an opportunity to sort of like re-up and make it worth their while. Like,
yeah.
we're collecting new data. We'd love to have this so we can match you with the best new opportunities that arrive this year.
That's a good one. I like that. Is there anything that you've seen you're like, ooh, I would not do that?
Ooh, I'm not a super fan of like very tiered advocacy programs that are confusing. Like, you want to be a gold advocate, you got to do these eight
Mm,
things, but you're a silver advocate, you do these four. And like, I don't love that angle. You and yourself may know this is your gold group, but like having people sort of opt into it or calling them that, I just don't like it. I mean, it's a little bit just like my own personality. I get that, but so
yeah,
thank you.
and
I'm
I think
getting
that
some hearts, so hopefully that means other people are great.
I think
Thanks.
it really, I think it's preference, right? In terms of like not just preference, but what's appropriate, as you were saying, for your ICP and what
Yeah,
different folks want. And Melanie, I know you and I were having a conversation yesterday of some folks, some personas really love that varsity jacket, while other personas may not. And so it's really
yeah,
understanding who your
yeah.
audience is and what is going to drive them. I'd love to get back to that alignment. It seems like we had a good amount of questions around this in terms of getting that buy-in. And I think how you get executive buy-in is really ensuring those go-to-market teams that you've not only got their understanding of what you do, but you also have support from ops. So how do you build internal relationships, especially with teams like RevOps, CS, and sales, so that you can be more proactive rather than that reactive nature that we
Mm,
mentioned earlier?
yeah. I mean, I think the phrase build relationships is like the biggest piece. you've got to have to make friends with some people on each of those teams. And sometimes that should be like at very on the personal level. Like you saw it was their birthday, reach out and wish them happy birthday. Like it's not Machiavellian, like, oh, I'm grooming this person as my friend so I can use
Yeah.
them in the future. I mean, that's just how work gets done in a company. You are going to be responsive to people who have been kind to you. So go ahead and pre be kind to people, you know? Um, is there some sales rep who you've helped out a couple times? Like you need to go to him next time and be like, hey, remember those two things I did for you last minute? I need something from you now. And like that's how you're going to get those relationships kind of off the ground. I also think biggest mistake I see a lot of people do is they're like they kick off a program, they go do a road show to all the departments, and they don't ever do it again. That's a one
Mm,
shot deal, and you've got to keep that cadence up. What's changed? What are you doing differently? And it needs to be what I've done for this is how it affects CS if you're going to talk to CS. This is how it affects sales if you're going to talk to sales. Like you need to like judge that. It's like a cover letter for your resume. You know, each time you need to like tweak it a little bit for the group you're talking to, but you cannot, you almost literally cannot over communicate what you're doing to other departments, in my opinion. Like, and I think we all make the mistake of not communicating enough because we hear ourselves talk about it all the time. We're like, oh my God, people are so sick of me talking about this. But in reality, like they're like, what is that? We have a program for what? We can do references? What's that called? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was recently speaking with another customer, and we were talking about reference adoption, and there was the reminder of, to your point, like you can't just launch your program once. To you, it's a big launch, but to
Yeah.
sales reps, and trust me, y'all, like I've managed sales teams before. One, they've got the attention span of a fly, and secondly, they're evolving, right? Like
Yeah.
so much is on their plate, and there's so much turnover. So if you think about all of the different initiatives that they get on their plate, it's just one easy to forget if it isn't like institutionalized in their mind. But then also, what about all of those new folks? So think about also really aligning with education teams, enablement
Yes.
teams, so that
Yes.
your trainings
Onboarding.
can go into, yeah, exactly, go into onboarding. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Or if your company has like a boot camp, you know, or whatever, like the 1 week in person
Yeah.
onboarding, how
Do
can
those
you
still
be part of that?
exist? Oh, I love
Yeah.
those. I used to run those. Those were so
Yeah.
much
I don't
fun,
know.
but
Maybe.
man, are they
Mhm.
expensive.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So what's the difference, Heather, between a program that's thriving at year three versus one that fizzles out?
You know, it's kind of how I feel about community too. Having run communities, it is it's the putting in the work on a day-to-day basis. Again, it's the communication, right? If you just launch a program, hey, if you build it they'll come, you got all these people and you're not keeping up some relationships with them or giving them things to do. I got asked to be a champion once for a company that I was a huge fan of. I'll just say it because they're not in business anymore. Jive. It was a community platform.
Yeah.
I was like literally the biggest fangirl for Jive. And they asked me to be part of their program, and I was so excited. And they never asked me to do anything, though. I never did anything.
Yeah.
And for the whole year. And then I got to the annual conference and I got to go to this special lunch. And I felt like such a poser being at this lunch because I'm like, I never did anything for you all. And so I think you don't ever want people to feel that way. How can you be keeping them a little bit engaged on, you know, what are the little small asks or drop them a note? Hey, I saw on LinkedIn that this thing happened at your company. Hope this is great news for you. Or saw you got a promotion, right? So there is, no matter what beautiful spreadsheets or products you use like Champion or whatever, there is the human element of just
Mm.
like walking around the cocktail party, you know, maybe introducing people to each other and saying hello and all that stuff. So, oh, I'm getting some jive. I see the word jive in the thing. So yeah, jive forever. Nothing has
I
ever been as good since then.
Oh,
So
that's really funny, isn't that the truth? I really just love your answer there on the human aspect to it. We've got a really just wonderful question here that I need to make sure I ask when there's plenty of time because I want you to take this space, Heather.
yeah,
There's a term that I learned from an organization I'm a part of called Wednesday Women, and there's a woman, and I
Mhm.
forget her name, you guys, so we will email this because I want to give her credit for this. And oh, Cynthia Barnes, and she's done a
Mhm.
TED Talk and all of these great things, but
Mhm.
she calls this own your awesome, and I flipping love this. So Heather, we're going to ask you, Brittany. Dearest Brittany is going to ask you to own your awesome for a moment here and tell us your career trophy moment. You've seen a lot, you've seen the good, you've seen the bad. Like, what are you most proud of?
Oh my gosh, I was super unprepared for this question. It's very hard for me to talk about stuff like this.
Force
Um,
this moment.
it's just so long ago, but I mean, I will never forget being named Eloquent of the Year when I worked at Eloqua, and
I
I still like get choked up about it when I think about it. It was so meaningful to me and such a super moment. So I think that's a big one for me. Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a
Wow.
good one.
That's a
Yeah.
really good one. I had
Yeah.
no
It's not good.
idea. That's huge. I
Yeah.
mean, Eloqua,
Yeah.
massive. Okay, we're gonna do something fun, and I'm actually gonna pause us for 2 minutes. And I think we should all own our awesome on this
I like this.
call. Could everyone chat in what you're most proud of? Take this moment on a
Oh, I love
Friday
it.
before we head into the weekend and let's fucking own our awesome.
I love this. I can't wait to see what comes through.
I know. Oh, and then Katie, I'm going to get to your question because that's a really good one.
Well, Mary, kudos to you for it. It's amazing. Ooh, Maria, badass.
Jenny, I love doing that too. Like when you build community and people connect and make friends, and it's just so much fun to see that you help them build happy parts of their lives. Oh, Alexi, congratulations. That's awesome.
There are so many good ones in here.
Oh, Alexi, congrats. That is awesome. I love this. Katie received an SKO award. Um, Jenny built community where the members are legit friends with each other, and I am proud to say I'm a friend of Jenny's too. These are awesome. We're going to email these out. What just like an uplifting way to lead into the weekend. But we've got some more questions. So Heather,
These are awesome.
I
um,
know.
oops, I lost it. Hold. Keep these coming, guys. Okay. I love this question from Katie. What are your thoughts about the future of advocacy, and what do you think people should proactively prepare for?
Yeah, it's like all things work related and marketing related right now. I mean, there's definitely a ton of changes happening for sure. So I think all related to AI, but it still goes back to my thing of like, there's only so much AI can do. You still have to have the conversations, right? You still need to be the person that people know. And the request is still going to come from you to them, and you're going to help them prep their speech to speak it on stage or at a webinar. And those are the times when those relationships get built. So I don't think that's ever going away. And hopefully you're actually going to get more time to do some of that because some of the mundane stuff is going to get more automated, right? I think to Jason's question earlier about how do you find the right people, I think AI is going to help us. I mean, Champion already does this, but like, I think that piece, especially as there's more inputs and more data that's coming in, I think we're going to be able to find more advocates more quickly and more of um, our fans more quickly and the right people to about the right thing. I think always everywhere I work from a customer marketing and advocacy perspective, you don't just want advocates. It's always this very special, like, I need someone who can talk about this product, who's used it for 4 years, who lives in Minneapolis and has red hair. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, yeah, okay, no problem. Let me get that for you. But I actually do think that that's where AI will be able to help us. Use case stuff more, and more, just connecting the perfect Venn diagram of finding those people when they're needed.
I love that. Yeah, it's the contextualized conversation so that
Mm-hmm.
a prospect can really get their questions answered by someone who's got, right, that same
Yeah,
scenario. And then it
yeah,
feels more like a networking call as well. And I
yeah.
also think that we're going to see that more in customer to customer in helping with
Mm-hmm.
expansion via adoption. And then also new product launches will get enhanced because of that. What do you see? I mean, I think a big narrative out there in that I think fares itself really well for advocacy is that with AI comes a lot of mistrust and the need for that human to human influence. Have you started to see this already?
I mean, thankfully, in the last year, I think I've worked with so many great customer marketers that already know the human side is so important.
Yeah.
So, they're all big believers in that and know that like AI is great to take some of the more tactical things off. So I haven't seen anybody kind of going awry, I guess. I don't know if I totally answered your question, but
No,
yeah.
I think, yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that's internal, but I think external as well. It is
Okay, I see.
like customers or prospects, right? Or even just how folks are engaging with AI to learn more about an organization. But I believe it's
Mhm.
really like voice of the customer that's going to stand tall right now.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. There's a lot of opportunity to collect more of their what they're saying and in their own
Mm.
words. I think I mean, the good folks at PeerBound have some good stuff like that I've been a part of when I was helping the team at AlphaSense, and I was like, just the phrasing, getting it in their own words. Gong's done that for a long time, but
Mhm.
this is helping sift through a little bit of that, and so I think you really want that is a powerful thing when you can put that on a slide and take it to an internal meeting. This customer says these words, that speaks for you a lot more powerfully than you can say, "Hey, I've got 5 customers that are really upset about X." Nope, say it
Yeah.
in their own words.
Yeah, definitely. And then also like getting that at the fingertips of sales reps and of CSMs. And
Yes.
so, I think advocacy will become even more powerful when you've got those MCPs or you've got those interfaces so that sales can really access what they need in the right time. And, I think with Benioff announcing, Salesforce that, I
Yeah.
mean, that was a pretty big announcement that like,
Yeah.
like the AI is their interface. I think that again is like that
Hmm.
access to that data moat is going to be so powerful. And y'all here, all of us on this call are the ones that are really going to influence a lot of that data that can be accessed and used and harnessed in a way that can be tracked and show that influence even greater. So I
Yeah.
actually think like now is the rising of customer marketing, and it's a pretty exciting
Hmm.
time to be in this space. We've got one last question here, Heather, and this is again just more about what's on your mind. Is there something that you've changed your mind about recently?
Oh, wow. This is a good question too. Yes, but it's not necessarily work related, but it's probably life related. How about that?
Yeah,
So,
I love life. I love
I'm
life. What a statement.
you do.
Happy Friday,
Um,
everyone.
um, for me, self-care is very much a challenge. I want to make sure everyone else is good. I want to, meet everyone's needs. It's that the mom in me, whatever it is, or how I grew up. And it's very hard for me to do self-care and take time for myself. And I have been working very purposefully on that for the last month. And I know that sounds kind of funny, like you have to work at that, but like I really do. I have to make it okay that I'm taking time to rejuvenate, and I'm very bad at that. So I wish I would have learned that earlier. I think it would have helped me avoid some burnout times in my career and in my life. So I don't know if anyone here needs to hear that, but self-care is the way where it's at. So
Self-care indeed. Well, thank you so, so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining this call. The active participation. I don't think I've ever been on a webinar or
Oh,
fireside chat that has
I
been
know.
so amazingly engaged. So, thank you all. I've got a couple of slides to pull up. Resources for you, knowing that Carly also shared. This is a little tricky, so sorry, guys. A link to the playbooks. But if you are interested in reading, utilizing the playbooks that Heather co-authored, please utilize this QR code right here. It is play by play of how you build and scale. And again, you don't need to be a champion customer. We will email these out as well. Also, you're invited. We're going to be at Pulse. We have a private customer marketing and community leader lunch. So, if anyone on this call or if your colleagues are going to Pulse, please give us a shout. Feel free to email back to the champion email that will come out or email Carly at championhq.com because we'd love to have you at lunch. And then lastly, get in touch if you're interested in and ready for a platform to help propel your program forward or you need some extra support in the expertise of Heather, please feel free to get in touch, and either one of us would
Yeah,
be happy to share more.
for
Um,
sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn too. It's the one benefit of my last name. There's pretty much you can find me. So yeah.
Same. Awesome. So, with that, everyone, have the happiest of Fridays. And I want to wish the amazing and wonderful Danielle Beacon the most fantastic weekend, which leads into her new job on Monday morning. Kick some
Oh,
ass. Rooting for you.
Yay.
congratulations, Danielle. Thank you so much. Do I say your name wrong? Gianna?
Gianna, you got it.
Gianna. Okay.
Yeah.
Gianna and Heather and um thank you for sharing. Everyone, thank you for jumping into the chat. And if you can't save the chat, then it's in usually like the top right of the chat box. There are three little dots. If you click that and click save chat, you should be able to. If not, I'm going to make it available wherever we put the recording. And I'm going to try to run the transcript through some AI to see what we can have a nice little format to read through afterwards.
Aw.
Um, Next week there will not be a call. I'll be out, so no call on May 1st, but on May 8th, Kevin Lau is joining to share more on building the customer-led growth framework and the app that he created
That'll be
with
great.
AI that's just so very comprehensive. So join us for that. And if you need a registration link or something like that, it's Luma, lu.m/CMA Weekly. All right. Thank you all for coming and have a great weekend. And I will be enjoying vacation and talk to you soon.
Enjoy
Great.
vacation, Mary. Well
Thank
deserved.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Heather. Bye.
Bye.